We've been road tripping around the UK for the past 5 months in Helga, our vintage campervan. Our journey has been all about finding the wildest places we can, and we've just caught the ferry from Orkney to mainland Scotland. Our plan is to drive along the NC500 and hike the best mountains we can find along the way. So join us as we explore the Highlands. Our first stop on the NC500 was this incredible beach, and we had perfect blue skies, so we decided to go for a swim. The first place we camped on the mainland was right by the sea, and we could watch these seals playing from our window. The perfect blue skies didn't last very long, but we continued to explore more of the coastline and different beaches, including this one, which was filled with cows. We haven't seen cows on a beach since we were in India or Sri Lanka, so it was quite a novelty. As soon as we veered inland away from the coast, we were greeted by midges. There were thousands of them. We thought by early September they'd have gone, but they were very much still around. It meant we didn't even want to leave our camper van and kept all the windows shut, but then we spotted this stag and decided it was worth going out for. It's the rutting season, and we managed to witness him boogling towards another deer. The second stag was much smaller in size and happily backed away. We woke early the next day to hike our first mountain in Scotland, which was Arkle. It's in the Sutherland region and is considered pretty unique as it's made of quartzite, which makes it all look white like snow. On our way back down, we played a game of hide and seek in these huge cracks, which was hilarious. I can't see you anywhere, right? Hike number 2 was an easier one up Cúnaing. You'll have to forgive me on all my pronunciations on this video. We had a lot of cloud and drizzle on this hike. It did look pretty cool at some times where it was drifting along the tops, but a lot of the time we were just in fog. The next day we headed to Achmelvig Beach, which we visited back in 2014 when we lived in Scotland. It was pretty busy in September compared to our last visit in winter, but it was still a beautiful spot and the sheep were very friendly. That evening we found one of our favourite camp spots because it just had space for one vehicle and an incredible mountain view. Sadly, the midges were in full force here, so we used this previously made fire pit and tried to smoke them out, but it didn't work too well, so we spent most of the time inside Helga. We woke early the next day to head up Stack Polly, which is a lovely little mountain. It's only about 500 metres elevation and a 4-kilometre loop trail, so it's perfect for beginners. We had to detour to Inverness for a COVID jab, and on the way we stopped at Shannery Point, which is a great place to see wild dolphins. After one day we left the Big Smoke and headed back to the mountains to hike up An Chollop. This is considered to be one of the most impressive mountains in Britain, and it didn't take us long to see why. Sadly, when we reached the top, it completely clouded over and we were in thick fog. We were at one of the most impressive features of the hike, so we decided to wait around and see what happened, and luckily the cloud began to fade and it moved onto one side of the mountain. It was so spectacular seeing it curve around this ridgeline and be completely clear on the other side. The bad weather quickly came back and we were surrounded by cloud and pouring rain again. The hike took us about 9 hours in total, and towards the end our trail just vanished and we ended up in this forest which was so overgrown we had to crawl under the trees. Once we finished the hike, it was time for us to hit the road, and we headed towards Gairloch, where we actually lived on a private island for a month back in 2014. We visited some familiar spots and then headed towards the loch to find a place to camp. Craig decided to check out these puddles and see if they were too deep to drive through, but eventually we made it to this lovely little camp spot. We had another windless night, which meant the midges were out in force and we couldn't really leave the van. We decided to take it easy the next day after doing so many long hikes recently, so we headed up the mountain trail. It's quite steep, but it's only 3 to 4 hours and is considered to be the only waymarked trail in Britain. We found some nice spots to swim on the way and got some lovely reflections before making our way back down. Then we made our way towards Torridon, where we've never visited before. And our first hike was going to be up Leahack. It started off with a very steep climb, but when we reached the top there were these clouds swooping through. But the sun was also managing to shine, which meant we were treated to a broken spectre. It's basically a 360-degree rainbow on the cloud with your silhouette in the middle of it. We couldn't have asked for a better start to the hike, and then all the clouds began lifting and the views were absolutely jaw-dropping. So we were basically traversing this whole ridgeline you can see in front of us here. And to give the mountain some scale here, you can just about see a person standing on top of this rocky crag. There was quite a bit of exposure on the hike as we were about 1,000 metres above the valley floor, but it didn't really bother us as we were so distracted by the good views. And I'd say it's one of the best hikes we've ever done. After about 9 hours, we finally got back to Helga and were treated to a lovely sunset. Our next hike in Torridon was Ben Alligan. It was a really beautiful route with these layered mountains, but it did cloud over a bit when we got to the top. It's considered to be a grade 5 scramble, but we found it much simpler than some of the other routes we've done in Scotland. Saying that, we did struggle a bit trying to find the best route up this section. When we got back to Helga, we managed to do some hand washing as we were in desperate need of some clothes. And the weather really perked up in the afternoon, so we had a lovely little camp spot and went for an evening stroll to see the deer, which are abundant in Torridon. Since leaving Torridon, we've had relentless rain for days, although it has brought with it some rainbows. We picked an easy valley walk instead of a mountain trek today and had a lovely swim in this river on the way. There were cows everywhere and the valley really reminded us of Switzerland. Some of the cows were a little intimidating like this one, but there was some seriously cute babies. There was a slight break in the rainy weather, so we attempted the saddle. We didn't meet anyone else on this trek and it was a really fun ridge, but yeah, sadly the weather just wasn't on our side. We were in thick fog when we reached the highest point and it began raining on the way down. You can see how wet my hair is in this video, but we found some blueberries, so that was a plus. And then it was time to follow the rainbows towards the Isle of Skye.